Imagine a world where towering skyscrapers, bustling cities, and endless highways don't exist. A land full of diverse cultures, rich traditions, and untold stories. This was the world of pre-colonial America, a world that existed long before the first European explorers arrived. Today, we're diving into the untold story of Native Americans, the original inhabitants of this vast land. Their lives, their cultures, and their societies shaped the continent in ways we often overlook. Let's journey into the past and uncover the forgotten histories of America's first people. Part 1, Native Americans, the first inhabitants. Before the arrival of Europeans, America was already home to millions of people. These were the Native Americans, the first inhabitants of this vast land. For thousands of years, they lived, thrived, and built their societies across the continent. From the icy north to the warm southern plains, Native American tribes adapted to different environments, creating diverse cultures and lifestyles. Let's start with the Iroquois Confederacy in the Northeast. The Iroquois were a group of tribes who formed a powerful alliance, one of the first examples of a democratic government in North America. Their system of governance, known as the Great Law of Peace, promoted unity, equality, and justice. This confederacy consisted of 5 nations: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca. Together, they created a system of mutual respect and cooperation, which allowed them to live peacefully and defend themselves against external threats. Their influence on the future political systems in North America is undeniable. Moving to the Mississippian civilization, one of the largest and most advanced cultures of prehistoric North America, the Mississippians created the ancient city of Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. At its peak, Cahokia had a population of around 20,000 people, making it larger than many European cities at the time. The Mississippians are known for their impressive earthen mounds, which were used for religious, ceremonial, and social purposes. Cahokia's central mound, Monk's Mound, was the largest earthen structure in pre-Columbian North America, standing over 100 feet tall. The Anasazi, or ancestral Puebloans, lived in the arid Southwest, building cliff dwellings in places like Mesa Verde in Colorado. These remarkable homes were carved into the rock faces of cliffs, designed to provide protection from enemies and the harsh elements. Their culture was deeply tied to the land. The Anasazi mastered irrigation techniques, allowing them to farm in areas where water was scarce. They were also skilled in weaving, pottery making, and creating stunning rock art. In the Great Plains, tribes like the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Comanche relied on the bison for almost every aspect of their lives. They were expert horsemen and hunters, with bison providing them food, clothing, and tools. The Plains tribes followed the bison herds, living a nomadic lifestyle, and their survival was intricately linked to these magnificent creatures. They were also known for their spiritual beliefs, which were closely connected to the natural world around them. Part 2, Cultural Diversity Among Tribes. Narrator, Calm Tone. Across the continent, from the lush forests of the Pacific Northwest to the dry deserts of the Southwest, each tribe had its own unique culture, beliefs, and way of life. The Northwest Coast tribes, like the Haida and Tlingit, created complex societies based on fishing, with totem poles and longhouses being key cultural symbols. In the Southeast, tribes like the Cherokee and Choctaw developed agricultural societies. They grew crops like corn, beans, and squash, and were known for their beautiful woven baskets and intricate beadwork. Each Native American tribe had a deep connection to the environment. They viewed nature not as something to dominate, but as a living, breathing entity to be respected and preserved. This was a worldview that saw the balance of the earth, water, and sky as sacred. Part 3, Spirituality and Beliefs. Native American spirituality was deeply rooted in nature. Their beliefs centered around the idea that all living beings, from the smallest insect to the largest tree, had a spirit. This belief in the interconnectedness of life shaped their culture, rituals, and daily practices. Many tribes practiced animism, believing that everything in nature had a spiritual essence. The medicine wheel was a common symbol used across various tribes, representing the interconnectedness of all life and the four cardinal directions. The vision quest was another important spiritual practice, where young people would fast and meditate alone in the wilderness to receive guidance from the spirit world. This practice was a rite of passage and marked the transition from childhood to adulthood. Part 4. Native American contributions to society. Although much of Native American history was erased or forgotten due to European colonization, their contributions continue to shape modern life. From agriculture to medicine, Native Americans introduced the world to vital crops like corn, potatoes, tomatoes, and tobacco. The contributions of Native Americans to the global food system are immense. Without their knowledge of sustainable agriculture, the development of modern civilization as we know it would have looked drastically different. Part 5. The First Contact. A collision of worlds. The arrival of European explorers in the 15th century marked the beginning of profound change for Native Americans. What started as an exchange of curiosity and resources soon turned into a clash of two completely different worlds. As the explorers set foot on the shores of the Americas, they were met with the unfamiliar and vast beauty of this new land. At first, these early encounters were peaceful. Native Americans greeted the Europeans, sharing resources and knowledge of the land. But soon, the relationship would turn adversarial. Europeans began to impose their culture, their beliefs, and their desire for land ownership onto the native peoples. As more Europeans arrived, diseases such as smallpox, influenza, and measles began to spread among Native American populations, who had no immunity to these illnesses. Entire villages were decimated. What was once a land teeming with millions of native people was now marked by loss and devastation. The arrival of Europeans also brought with it the idea of land ownership, a concept that was foreign to Native Americans, whose cultures often emphasized the communal use of land. The clash of this foreign concept with Native American beliefs led to misunderstandings and eventually violence. What began as peaceful exchanges soon gave way to land disputes, loss of sovereignty, and cultural destruction. The collision of these two worlds marked the beginning of a long and painful chapter in Native American history. The Part 6, the battle for survival, resistance, and adaptation. As more Europeans arrived and settlements grew, Native Americans had to make a choice: adapt or resist. Some tribes, such as the Pequot, fought fiercely to protect their land, engaging in violent conflict with the settlers. The Pequot War became one of the earliest and most devastating wars between Native Americans and European settlers. Others, like the Wampanoag, initially sought to maintain peace. They forged alliances with the European settlers, helping them survive the harsh New England winters. The Wampanoag taught the settlers vital agricultural skills: how to grow corn, beans, and squash, ensuring their survival in this unfamiliar land. However, peace was often short-lived. As more settlers arrived, they began to demand more land, leading to increased tensions and eventual conflict. The King Philip's War, named after the Wampanoag leader Metacom, was one of the bloodiest conflicts in early American history, with both sides suffering immense losses. In the aftermath of these wars, many Native American tribes were forced to adapt. They learned to adopt European farming techniques, trade goods, and tools. But this adaptation came at a steep price: the erosion of their cultural practices, beliefs, and way of life. Part 7. The changing landscape, displacement, and forced removal. As European settlements expanded, Native Americans found themselves increasingly displaced. The vast lands that they had once roamed freely were now being claimed by settlers. This forced removal began with some tribes being pushed off their lands and relocated to other territories. One of the most tragic examples of this was the Trail of Tears. The government's policies of forced relocation, also known as Indian removal, did not just affect the Cherokee. Many other tribes, like the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Creek, were also removed from their ancestral lands. Entire cultures were uprooted, and the emotional and physical toll on these tribes was unimaginable. On Part 8, the legacy of Native Americans. Despite the suffering, Native Americans continued to survive. They fought for their rights, reclaimed their cultural practices, and found ways to rebuild their communities. Their ability to persevere through such hardship is one of the most remarkable stories in American history. Today, many Native American tribes have regained some of the lands they lost, and they have worked tirelessly to preserve their languages, arts, and traditions. Native American communities are reclaiming their place in modern America, and their influence continues to be felt in every corner of the nation. The spirit of Native Americans has endured through centuries of adversity. Their resilience is a testament to their strength and their deep connection to the land. Part 9, Conclusion. The enduring spirit of Native Americans. The story of Native Americans is one of incredible endurance and strength. It is not just a history of suffering, but one of survival, resistance, and profound cultural legacy. The rich traditions of Native Americans respect for the earth, their spiritual connection to all living things, and their diverse and vibrant communities continue to inspire the world. As we look back at history, it's crucial to remember the deep and lasting impact that Native American cultures have had on shaping not just America, but the world. Their contributions to art, agriculture, governance, and spirituality remain a vital part of the global cultural fabric. Though their lands were taken, their cultures were suppressed, and their peoples were displaced, the spirit of Native Americans endures. This enduring spirit continues to guide the fight for justice, equality, and preservation of their way of life. Native Americans will always be a fundamental part of the history of the land they have inhabited for millennia.